Welcome, everybody. We are here with the impending Civil War with two colleagues, Tony Stark. Hello, Tony.
Nice to be here.
And Captain Rogers. Hello, sir.
Hello.
I'm Jobadiah. That's right. We have a few things to discuss today. Why don't we start with an opening segment or a statement here from Cap?
Thank you very much, Jobadiah.
It's cute. You have a little notebook. Was that frozen with you in the iceberg?
I hope this isn't a game to you, Tony.
Everything's a game to me.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Game of Thrones.
several decades ago, we built up nuclear deterrence to prevent war, and as a result, we edged closer to apocalypse. 1 decade ago, Stark Industries presents its Jericho missile technology to government officials, an effort to stop terrorism by striking preemptively in a massive and, some might say, efficient strike. This results in the terrorist intervention and Tony Stark's capture and near death. More recently, we know of events like Project Insight and Ultron. These events have a similar theme, trying to stop a war before it starts. And every time I've seen someone try to do that, innocent people die. Every time. Today, we're talking about the Sokovia Accords, which arise from the same fear and paranoia that those previous incidents have. Except now, we have moved beyond fear and have fulfilled what Hydra began with Project Insight, giving up our freedom in exchange for security. But even the security these accords promise us cannot be trusted. Freedom, discretion, and wisdom are the answer in times like these, not fear and paranoia. Tony acted rashly in situations like the Ultron incident, but his failure was in lack of discretion and a failure to communicate with his team. Progress is made by learning and cooperating, not by removing Tony's ability to choose it all. Safest hands, after all, are our own.
Wow, it was inspiring. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Stark, how do you respond to that?
Well, I'm glad to bring it all up, Steve. I've made mistakes. I did launch the Jericho missiles 10 years ago. And I ushered in something worse. I ushered in an age of people who could level buildings and mountains with a thought. And these people are completely unchecked. I've been unchecked, which led to Ultron. S.H.I.E.L.D. being unchecked led to Insight. No checks and balances, no accountability. And now we have some of the greatest disasters of our time, things that we never imagined we'd see. And we're seeing more every day, more superpowers, more people with abilities and gifts, and they're not accountable for any of the damage they leave in their efforts to fight something else. There needs to be accountability. There need to be changes. And there needs to be a structure, or else it's just going to get worse. I've seen what's on the other side, Steve. I've seen what's out there. And when that comes, we're going to need to be organized. Or we can remain as we are, going where we please, doing as we please. And by the time they get here, there'll be nothing left to conquer.
Wow, if my father Obadiah were here, he would be totally touched by that. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to follow along with us on Twitter for the debate here. Use hashtag Civil War Debate. We'd love to get in on the action for you. So we'll go with 4 topics for today. Number 1, start with you again, Mr. Stark. First question, how do you respond to the recent outbreak of highly skilled individuals that have popped up all over the globe in recent time?
Well, let's look at a few of the smaller events. Let's look at the events in Hell's Kitchen. All these Russian businesses bombed, destroyed, leaving a whole chunk of New York in chaos. Roughly around the same time, I believe there was talk of someone with the power to control minds running around and causing all kinds of havoc. And my response is, I'm terrified. I'm terrified that these things were allowed to occur because of these lone vigilantes. The Daredevil or Devil of Hell's Kitchen. Who gave him the authority to do these things? And are we so certain he wasn't behind these bombings?
Wasn't me.
We can't know. Because there's no accountability and there's no one keeping check on these things. So we just allow this vigilante to run free, beat whoever he wants, destroy whatever he wants, in the hopes that he's actually fighting on the right side of this. That's my feeling on it, and that's my response. Fear and a firm belief that we need some sort of system to keep these things in check and figure out what is going on in these situations.
So, Captain Rogers, how would you respond to that? What is the counter argument there?
I don't think it's right to restrict everybody that has abilities like these because of certain isolated incidents. I believe that things need to be evaluated case by case, but getting government involved and imposing federal regulation on anybody who might want to do a good thing will only detract from all the good that these people can do. The solution here is to look inward, not to look to be controlled outwardly.
Thank you. Let's go to topic 2. Don't forget to tweet using hashtag Civil War Debate. So, second topic, sir.
Yes.
Government supervision and control over powered or highly skilled individuals. What are your thoughts on that premise?
Well, my thoughts is that we're asking these people and the abilities they have are to be governed by the law, a law that we know is imperfect and can fail. What happens in situations like Project Insight, where the very authorities that we default to for assistance completely and utterly fail the cause of good? There needs to be some kind of an alternate means for peace and justice. Now, systematic registration of super-powered and...
Whoa, sir. Can you finish the damn Hershey bar?
Sorry.
Yeah, security, get this clown out of here.
Under oath!
Sir, please.
I'm just running.
Start, chill. Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Systematic registration is an example of fear and hate leading to persecution and alienation of entire people groups. And that's something that's a road we cannot go down as a people and as a nation.
So you brought up Project Insight. Refresh my memory, Cap. What were you doing at that time? Were you not working for S.H.I.E.L.D.? So you're saying...
I was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. I was a part of actions that exposed the truth behind Project Insight and exposed the truth of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra to the entire world.
Yes, when it was almost too late. By then, Insight was so close to launching. So many of us, including myself and this handsome mug here, would have been gone in an instant because all these years you're working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and you never noticed this yet. You're the best person to decide which of these heroes and vigilantes gets to operate and where.
You're saying that I should question the authorities in place. I shouldn't just blindly follow.
I'm saying we
trust
can't
federal
just
regulation.
trust ourselves to do as we please. We can't trust ourselves to be in control of this. And S.H.I.E.L.D., outside organization, independent of any official government sanction, and they nearly wiped millions off the map. We need to trust the governments that have been elected by the people of this great nation.
Thank you. I think that deserves a round of applause.
Woo, woo, woo.
That's right.
Do you expect superpowered people who we fight against to register for this?
I expect the people who are going to follow the law to be willing to submit if they have nothing to hide. We don't decide that murder should just be legal since murderers are going to do it anyways. We don't just decide they can do whatever they want.
We're doing what we can on a daily basis. And if we're being restricted by interdepartmental correspondence and government regulation, that is going to make it even more difficult to stop the people who are trying to cause disruption and chaos on a daily basis.
I'm going to have to ask you to slow down. If we can't trust ourselves, who can we trust? Thank you, Mr.
Exactly.
Stark. Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
That's what I believe.
Very good.
That's what I'm saying.
So it seems like you might be saying more of the same thing than you guys think.
No.
I'm saying we have elected officials for a reason. We have a chain of command for a reason. And years ago, I was just as firmly on your side as you are, Steve. I felt I was the best person to control this. No one needed to touch my weapons, my toys. These were my inventions, and who were they to tell me they should control them? And then I nearly dropped a country on the planet because of my arrogance. And I see it starting with you.
Your arrogance will not be solved by a law. You cannot force people into believing something inherently different.
No, but maybe
than what they
next
already
time
believe.
we'll be prepared and we'll be able to stop it before it happens, before another Ultron.
All right, gentlemen, I think that's a good stopping point. Let's move on here. Jobadiah Stane, Geek News Network. Number 3, Steve, we're going to go back to you. So what would your feelings be on the limitations put in place over where and when these highly skilled individuals can operate?
Ultimately, I see it as, look, I've lived many lives. Before I lived this life, before I lived in this decade, before I took part in Operation Rebirth, I worked regular jobs. I worked clerical, menial jobs in Brooklyn, and
You know what it's like to be the true underdog.
I do, but that's not my point.
We
My
love you,
point
Pat.
is, thank you very much. I've seen clerical hindrances and interdepartmental correspondence slow down something that should be done. When someone needs my help with something, when I'm restricted by having to filter it through different departments and different people and having things be... When government regulates something like heroic, courageous people and the abilities they have and the difference that they want to make, when government regulates something, you get less of it. We have lives at stake here, and we cannot filter this through government regulations and approvals. And besides, the Sokovia Accords would mean that who we fight and when and where we fight them would be a federal matter and would be dictated by the government. But enemies change with the times. Enemies of governments and of nations change with the times. Right now, they might send us over to eliminate a radical terrorist cell. In a decade from now, who are they gonna? They might ask us to attack the very people who are our friends now. Political enemies change with the times, and political climates change much more than immorality does. And we need to trust ourselves and not trust our governments to tell us who is the enemy.
Very good, Steve. Touching. Mr. Stark, how would you counteract that?
You know, I admire you, Steve. I mean, it's hard not to. Look at that perfect chiseled looks and such. And the good old boy feeling, that nice, great, happy, comfortable world that you had in the 30s, 40s. You missed out on 80 years of this world just going straight down. And everyone turning against each other. And everyone monitoring each other, and everyone just doing as they please until we're in chaos. And we're where we are now, where, again, we have explosions in small cities, we have alien invaders, and our government's helpless to do anything about it because we won't work with them. We won't trust them. And who are we to say that they can't be trusted, seeing as how they were elected through a democratic system by the people that we're trying to protect to make these decisions? And we instead say, well, you people don't know well enough for yourselves. So we don't care that you elected them. We don't care you trusted them to be your leaders. We're just going to be our own leaders. And I feel like that's a small step away from a coup or treason. That's how it always begins. Someone thinking that they know better than the people who chose their leaders. They decide they know better than the people that were trusted in those positions. And eventually they decide that they should be running things. And how long is it going to be before someone like you or the Hulk decides that they should be running this world? And who's going to stop them if they decide that?
I think this is a step toward alienation and control of people based on their abilities. It's reminiscent of alienation of minorities based on fear and hate-mongering from isolated incidents. This is a
really, because I don't remember
cycle.
Any minority group being able to level a building with a single stroke.
Oh.
The scale might be different, but the context is similar.
I don't see how it is. We've seen the damage that the Hulk can do, and he's the most powerful, granted. Thor. What if Asgard decides to just come back and invade us? They've been here before.
Then God help us all.
We've seen Loki. Loki's attempt to conquer this world brought down on us an alien army.
We have a relationship and a friendship with Asgardians.
Oh, yes.
If we try to
We can
impose
just
regulations
with
on them,
Asgardians, but we can't trust our elected officials. We can trust the Asgardians, who, frankly, we know very little about, and we've seen very little of, but we can't trust the people that went through the democratic process for months and even years to achieve a position where they were leaders. Nope, we just trust the guy with the magic hammer who comes down.
people climb up through the system for a variety of reasons. It isn't always for the
Yes, and people
betterment.
get superpowers and use them for a variety of reasons.
All right, gentlemen, I think that's a good point to go on to our fourth and final topic. We're going to actually go back to Mr. Stark for this one here. Regarding this topic here, I want your first thought on the necessity of training and the knowledge of these highly skilled individuals with their identities and their past history. How much is too much, and how much do we need to know?
They have nothing to hide. What should they be worried about?
You tell me.
If you're deciding that you want to take the law into your own hands, then you need to be ready to tell us why you should. You need to tell us why we should trust you to make the right calls in the field. Because it's only a matter of time before we have another Frank Castle running around out there, gunning down everyone he comes across. Maybe this time we got lucky and the Punisher only killed the bad guys. We don't have any evidence that they were bad guys necessarily, otherwise they would have been in custody, I'm certain. So we just have to trust that the Punisher was right in all those. What about the next one? Makes a mistake, thinks this is the bad guy. Why shouldn't we need to know their histories? Where they got these abilities? Where they've been trained? And why shouldn't we make sure they have the appropriate training to make these decisions? We train our police officers, we train our soldiers, we train everyone to make these decisions. And then they're held accountable afterwards if they're wrong. They have to go through our courts. They have to face the public. But these vigilantes, they don't have to even face the public. They wear masks. They hide behind these names. I never hid that I was Iron Man. I was proud of it. I embraced it.
You never hid that?
Absolutely not. It came out in the first press conference.
Okay, Mr. Stark. Wouldn't, well, I assume Mr. Rogers has an argument to that.
Yes. Thank you, Joe. We do have a public face, and we don't hide from the public attention. And I'm not saying we will rebuke any kind of government correspondence, but cooperation and regulation are two very different things. And on the subject of training, we do train everybody. I train the Avengers in a private, independent, safe environment, free from government intervention.
So you trained the Devil of Hell's Kitchen. You trained this Jessica Jones woman who we've been hearing about who can
Mr. Stark, please.
punch through a wall.
Please.
No, but we're forging new relationships every day. This is a growing community, and this is a changing time. Now, identities and histories being given up to the government, that is a very different thing from a citizen giving up their identity or history compared to a superpowered individual whose secret identities, as they're called, are a useful, crucial tool and would expose a critical vulnerability if those things were to be revealed.
Did you ever hide your identity?
No, I did not.
Did you hide your history?
No,
And yet you are one of the most effective
from the
superheroes
beginning,
we've
those
ever
things
had.
were a matter of public record, but tell me
Then we don't find out till later on that they're actually a psychopath.
calling these people, these are our friends, Tony. Please don't call them psychopaths.
I'm not referring to our friends, I'm referring to the ones that might betray us one day and that we're not going to be prepared for because we don't know enough about
We
them.
can't just point to everybody and say, well, they shouldn't be trusted, they might do this or that, so
I'm
let's
saying
just
trust but
restrict
verify.
everybody.
Gentlemen, no need for personal attacks here.
Regardless, asking people to reveal that information, besides, that's a violation of our Fourth Amendment, I would say, rights of people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects.
Do we not ask gun owners to register their firearms so we have some record, some knowledge of who has what? If you have a rocket launcher in your basement, do we not have a right to know that you have a rocket launcher in your basement? Should you decide to use it? So that we can...
Gun control is different from regulation of people like you and me.
So a firearm which can't, destroy a building in one shot, that needs to be regulated much more strictly than someone who can actually lift a mountain and throw it across the country.
We live in a world where there is a danger of the wrong people having control of firearms because we've seen incidents like that happen in our daily lives, but we've seen far
And we've
more
seen
incidents
of people who
like
abuse
you and
their
me
abilities
trying to do good.
and decide that they're going to rule this world.
It's a different matter. I would not equate a superpower or a skill to a firearm.
Yeah? Let's ask Agent Coulson about that.
No need to bring that up. Stark. Let's go on to closing.
And also, I just want to say that asking someone to reveal their identity like that is okay for somebody under investigation, but under arrest. But asking a private citizen to reveal that information is unconstitutional.
How do we
I'm
investigate
sorry.
them if we don't know who they are?
An astute question. Closing statements here. let's take it a question from the audience. Sir, your name, and then your question and who it's directed to.
Hello, my name is Boris Mackey,
Mr. Mackey.
NYPD. I serve in the Brooklyn ward. I was there the day the bombs fell, and lost a lot of good men that day. Mr. Stark, I couldn't help but seeing your logo all over the place. And I get in here today, and frankly, I'm upset, sir, that you'd attack our finest hero, America's greatest. And while the whole time, would you mind help me out here? Could you put your foot on the table, sir? Just put your foot on the table. Thank you. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, he's wearing the captain symbol on his sock. Whoa. I don't know what that means, but man, I'm tired.
Thank you, Mr. Mackey. It could mean
welcome.
He just loves his country. Tony, want to please respond to Mr. Mackey's allegations and questions?
Well, first off, sir, I'd like to thank you for your service to the great people of New York. And yes, I'm certain that some of my bombs did get used for the wrong reasons because I was lacking oversight and anyone to stop me from doing
Lacking
so.
insight.
Yeah, that insight project worked out real great, right?
Gentlemen. Mr. Stark.
As for my choice in socks, that's because I love this country. I love democracy. And what we have here is people with the ability to overturn democracy.
All right.
And I will fight to the death to make sure that doesn't happen.
That is inspiring, folks.
So,
that is inspiring.
How do you feel about the possible loss of democracy, Captain America?
Loss of democracy, really. I have a lot of feelings about this symbol as well. And when I was growing up, this symbol meant freedom. I'm sorry that seems to have changed, but I just still want to fight for the cause of this, meaning freedom. And democracy will be lost in a system that enforces restrictions, registration, and regulation of people because of what we fear they might do. That is not democracy. That is totalitarianism, and that is not what this shield is about. That's not what this symbol is about. It's not what your
Someone
socks
has
are
the
about.
ability to force us to our knees with her minds.
So, folks, we clearly have two sides of the coin here. While we're preparing here just for closing statements, if anyone has a question, if they would make their way, please, to the back, please raise your hand and you get a microphone. Make your way over there. Mr. Rogers, if you would like to do your closing statement just before we take another audience question here.
Thank you, Joe.
Again, Jobadiah Stane here of Geek News Network. If you have any questions from home, please use the hashtag Civil War Debate, and we'd love to get back to you. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been through this kind of situation before. In World War II, the U.S. government suspected Japanese-American citizens of being traitors, so they put innocent people into camps. In the 1950s, America went on a crusade against socialism and communism and was ready to turn on any fellow citizen who they perceived as a threat. More recently, a war on terror and radical Islam has led to alienation and suspicion of entire minorities. We cannot forge into the future without looking to the past. We must learn from our previous mistakes in order to make the right decisions moving forward. And sometimes moving forward for positive change doesn't mean changing the fabric of our system, but it means changing the fabric of ourselves.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you.
A very touching sentiment.
Thank you.
We're going to go to Mr. Stark. Tony, your closing statement before a question from the audience.
There's not a single member of the Avengers who can't claim they have blood on their hands for mistakes that they've made and being on the wrong side when they thought they were on the right one. We've seen this with Romanoff. We've seen it with Barton. We've seen it with you, Cap. You were with S.H.I.E.L.D. when Insight started. You didn't see it coming. I probably have more on my hand than most, aside from maybe Banner. And that's why I'm the best person to realize that we need to be put in check. We need to trust someone to hold us accountable for our actions and for the circumstances that surround our actions and the fallout. How many died in New York and Sokovia? How many in Harlem when Bruce Banner lost control? How many when you dropped the helicarriers to prevent Project Insight? How many innocent bystanders are potentially good men who were misguided were on those ships, we need to be held accountable. We need to answer to somebody for our actions and for the losses that they cause.
Very good, Mr. Stark. Thank you very much, sir. And Steve, do we have a question for the audience?
Yes, hello. First of all, Mr. Stark, I have to say, just the biggest fan. I have the new Spark Fire phone. It is phenomenal. Let's put it that way.
Of course it is.
no
But
denying that.
my question here is for careful there. Captain America can't even keep his balance.
Sir, your name.
All right.
Don't mind-
So
don't mind
sorry,
this
my
one.
name
Sorry.
is Rogue Jogan. Rogue. I like to put on. Let's just say I applied for the Avengers several times now, and I've yet to hear back from Mr. Captain America. And I have a question for Mr. America. Explain the fact that a man was able to break into your secret safe base and cripple the Falcon and steal a piece of tech. How is your place so safe? How can we be protected by your secret organization? And why haven't you responded to my emails?
Thank you. Oh, boy. More government email outbreak here. Thank you, Mr. Jogan. Captain, please respond to Mr. Jogan.
I don't see how a government regulation could that man, that skilled, superpowered individual could have snuck into any base, a government base. He wouldn't have been stopped by any laws. That a person like that needs to be corresponded with. We've since reached out to this person who won't be identified, and we've established a relationship with him, and we didn't attempt raids on him. We didn't try to bring him under arrest. We tried to communicate with him to see what kind of good we can do with him, and that's the kind of community I want to foster. One of outreach and one of support, not one of destruction and fear.
So Cap, your response to someone breaking into a facility with all this information, all these weapons, all of this equipment, is to shake hands and call the guy your buddy now? Well,
It's certainly better
I guess
than
my mind's been
calling.
changed. I guess that's
it's
the
certainly
best.
better than calling all of our friends potential threats.
No, but I don't find it better than calling a burglar and having them pay for actually breaking the law, breaking into one of my facilities, and this is the first time hearing of this, so you don't find yourself accountable to me even though you use my facilities to operate.
Just slow down, gentlemen. Calm down, please.
Guilty until proven innocent is what I'm hearing.
Well, to
How do
you
you
it's
respond to
innocent
that?
even after proving guilty because no one's denying he broke into the facility and assaulted one of your teammates who, I like Sam, nice guy. You just,
Don't
he's
bring
your
up
best
Sam
friend
to
and
me.
you just let him
Okay, Mr.
let him
Stark.
get,
Sam can handle
attacked,
himself.
and you don't even want the person to pay for attacking him?
Mr. Stark. Okay. Steve, do we have any more questions from the audience at all? No. All right. We are good for now. Gentlemen, I think that's a good point to leave off. Again, thank you for watching the GNN, the Geek News Network. Please visit us. Use the hashtag Civil War Debate. We've got Tony Stark. Tony, thank you for joining us today.
Always a
We
pleasure.
appreciate it. Steve Rogers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cap. We appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen. Round of applause for these two again.
Woo! God bless America, God bless democracy.
For Mr. Stark, for Mr. Rogers, I'm the best looking person on the stage, Jobadiah Stane. We'll see you guys later.